The question is whether it is right for any one political party to be appropriating Nehru's legacy and whether that can even be possible. Swapan Dasgupta here in the studio with us tonight. Sudhindra Kulkarni, writer and commentator, joins us this evening from Mumbai. Professor Aditya Mukherjee from Jawaharlal Nehru University here in the studio with us. And our political spokespersons, C.R. Kesavan and Nalin Kohli, also join us shortly this evening. I'd like to ask Professor Mukherjee first. You know, we've actually done a number of programs on this in the run-up to Jawaharlal Nehru's birth anniversary, and I actually find it quite unfortunate that there is this sort of political bitter war of words that has broken out over the first Prime Minister's legacy. How do you look at this?
I couldn't agree with you more. Nehru is everybody's legacy, and not only for India. I mean, he's a global legacy. Throughout the third world, particularly the third world, the post-colonial world, Nehru is remembered till today. For a whole range of reasons, you know, apart from the fact that his world peace message, his anti-nuclear message, his socialism with a human face message, number of things. But the more important thing I would say here is that we must distinguish between the Congress party before independence and after independence. Before independence, Congress was a platform on which, from Namudripad and Harkishan Singh Surjit to Tej Bahadur Sapru, everybody was Congress people. So Nehru was their leader. After independence, when the movement becomes a government, as you would expect, political parties emerge, and the same Congress party now breaks up into several parties. The communists, socialists, they all break up. But then they are all, their legacy is of or the same national movement. They are part of the national movement. So you cannot say that they cannot claim Nehru's legacy. Everybody who's part of this idea of India, everybody who's part of the national movement certainly can claim legacy to Nehru. And we would want them to claim that legacy.
Swapan Dasgupta, how do you look at it? Because there has been one view that Mr. Modi has actually been very smart in a sense by appropriating, if he can, those who have traditionally been identified as Congress icons, whether now it is Jawaharlal Nehru, and he's sort of using his birth anniversary to promote Swachh Bharat in schools. He used Mahatma Gandhi's anniversary as well to take a pledge. So has he been, has he been smart about that in also perhaps getting people to look at him differently?
Well, let me first say that I agree with Professor Mukherjee when he says that there is an aspect of Nehru which belongs to everybody. I think that's undeniable insofar as anybody who traces their lineage, their political lineage to the national movement, and Nehru was certainly one of the stalwarts of the national movement. He was by no means the only leader, but he was a very, very prominent figure. There is a definite Nehruvian legacy which existed in terms of him being Prime Minister of India for 17 years. Now that happens to be a contested legacy. And that's inevitable also to my mind, because any legacy cannot be undisputed. What the Congress appears to be trying to do is that rather than celebrating Nehru, rather than commemorating Nehru in their own way, which they have every right to do so, they are trying to make Nehru a part of a private limited company, a part of a private trust. And that's a very self-defeating proposition. Because if there are facets of Jawaharlal Nehru which we can admire, which parties across the board can admire, there may be aspects of it which will be again fiercely debated about whether that legacy continues. But that's part of history. You know, you cannot turn your back on the fact that here was a man who was there for 17 years. Non-alignment is no longer relevant in our view.
Of course,
socialism is no longer relevant, but a certain democratic tradition is vibrant in India. And Nehru did play a very meaningful role towards establishment of that. So I think in our own way, we should all celebrate Nehru, the facets of it which we admire. And that's really what Indian national movement is. It's a galaxy of leaders, and Nehru is certainly one of the most important ones.
Let me ask Sudhindra Kulkarni then. Mr. Kulkarni, why do you think that this has happened? Where, as I think Swapan Dasgupta put it really well, that in a sense the Congress is, as he said, trying to put the celebrations of Nehru's birth anniversary, making it part of a private trust. Now, why do you think it has come to that? Do you think it started with the whole move, for instance, by the BJP and Mr. Modi to push or appropriate Sardar Patel and the whole statue, and then we've had that debate as well. Do you think that that is the genesis of this? Where did this all actually begin?
No, the politicization that we are seeing in commemorating the 125th birth anniversary of Jawaharlal Nehru is very unfortunate. Jawaharlal Nehru was our first Prime Minister, and he was also one of the greatest leaders of our freedom movement. The sacrifice that he made for India's independence is something that should inspire today's generation. You know, he spent as many as 9 years in various prisons during the British time. And even if we take his prime ministerial tenure of 17 years, he made mistakes. But his overall achievements, they outweigh, they outnumber the mistakes and the failures. And therefore, today when we look at Nehru, there are many aspects of Nehruvian legacy which are very relevant and which should be not only preserved but strengthened. Secularism, for example, parliamentary democracy, for example. You know, as first Prime Minister, he is the one who really built many democratic institutions, of course with the cooperation of others. India's unity, you know, he was a great patriot. And therefore, you know, the kind of bitterness that we see, you know, I would urge even the people in the BJP to revisit what Vajpayee ji said about Nehru. Why only Vajpayee ji? Even Guruji Golwalkar, the then RSS chief, when Nehru ji passed away in 1964, Golwalkar paid rich tributes to Nehru and said that he was a great idealist, a great son of Mother India. So when we look back at Nehru, we should celebrate all that is good about him, and not only Nehru ji but all the great leaders. Take for example Savarkar. The kind of politicization that the Congress made about Savarkar is unfortunate. Savarkar also made great sacrifices for India's freedom. There may have been aspects of Savarkar that Congress doesn't agree with, or even I don't agree with. But we have to celebrate, we have to recognize all those martyrs, all those heroes of freedom movement who have struggled, who have contributed for making India free and making India great.
I think that's an excellent point. And before, I know that this will turn into a political battle shortly, so I'm going to just hold that off for another 2 minutes. Professor Mukherjee, Ram Guha said very interestingly on a program we did last week that he felt actually the greatest disservice that was done to Jawaharlal Nehru was by the Congress party, and particularly by Sonia Gandhi and the family. In a sense, he was suggesting that this whole culture of dynasty, and from Indira Gandhi's emergency onwards, Nehru would have been horrified at what then unfolded with the Congress and, you know, his legacy. Would you agree with that assessment? Has the greatest disservice actually been done to him by the party today that is saying in so many words that only we can really appropriate him?
No, if the party is saying that only we can appropriate Nehru, this is obviously wrong. The Nehru, as I said, everybody's. But the party may have some point in saying that don't make a manipulative or cynical use or a token use of Nehru when you do not actually believe in. That is what they have been saying. And in a context, as you mentioned just now, where, you know, it has been said, if only Nehru had not been Prime Minister, and if Patel had been, as if Nehru was a disaster, or as you know... So
you think it's a cynical use of not just Nehru but other leaders as well? To give you an example, recently an RSS journal, for example, said that Godse made a mistake. He shouldn't have killed Gandhi, he should have killed Nehru. Now, in that context, if you suddenly pick up Nehru and say that, you know, he's our hero, then there is a cause for worry. But what we would want, what any Nehruvian, and I look upon myself as a Nehruvian, what we would want is that people from all political parties should be celebrating Nehru and should be celebrating the values that he stood for, rather than just the person. But Swapan Dasgupta, on the cynical use of Nehru and other icons, that's the point that Professor Mukherjee was making.
I think
is that what's happening?
I think firstly we've got to make a distinction between Jawaharlal Nehru, the man, the leader, the Prime Minister, and Nehruvians. Jawaharlal Nehru was intellectually very alert. This is one thing you can say for him throughout his life. He picked up ideas. Sometimes he was prone a little bit excessive towards fashionable ideas, but nevertheless he was always alert. Now, if you ossify, freeze those ideas in time and say that these are not time specific and have a universal, timeless application, you do yourself a great deal of disservice. You also do a great deal of disservice if you reduce the legacy of the national movement to merely that of Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. That's looking at it in a very, very narrow way. Therefore, if someone today says, look, there were other contributions made by people like Sardar Patel, Subhash Chandra Bose, Bhagat Singh, the various strands, Lokmanya Tilak, etc. These are various strands. This was a broad church movement. It's continued, you know, exactly. Correct. So that's where I think the problem has arisen, because the manner in which history, at least popular history, has been projected in terms of Chacha Nehru, he was the defining figure. I think what has happened is there's been a reaction. Now, some of that reaction has been a bit crude, some of it has been a bit visceral, but nevertheless, I think what we can use this occasion is by saying, look, this is a far more broader based appreciation of an entire generation or many generations who contributed towards the building of modern India.
I think that's a very important point that came up, particularly when we were talking about Sardar Patel. And C.R. Kesavan, I'll take that to you. Sheila Dikshit said in an interview that we did with her just a couple of days ago that how can Nehru be appropriated by any particular party other than the Congress, by any party other than the Congress party. You also have a situation today where next week you're going to have a big international conference to commemorate these 125 years of his birth anniversary. And you made a pointed note, you know, you pointedly said, look, we've not invited the Prime Minister. It's come off as a rather churlish act on the part of the Congress to keep Mr. Modi out of this. Why? Why do that?
I'll explain this in 2 points, Nidhi. I hope I'm not interrupted. Appropriation as defined means trying to use or taking away something which rightfully doesn't belong to you. So as far as Nehruji's ideals and visions, you know, his enduring faith in inclusive social development, I can hear my echo please, his enduring faith in inclusive social development, cherishing the, you know, linguistic and religious pluralism of India, nurturing democratic institutions of India, and also recognizing and respecting the role of the opposition. All these are values which innately come to the Congress party. I'll come to the crux of the issue here. The politics of this as being projected is because the BJP was not invited. See, in 2007, the Congress party, not the Congress government, the Congress party held a centenary celebration, you know, of Satyagraha done by Gandhiji in Transvaal for the Asiatic Registration Act, which is called the Black Act. The BJP and the RSS were not called because the RSS leader Golwalkar ji had very clearly said Ahimsa and Satyagraha in his book called The Bunch of Thoughts. Satyagraha is a, you know, betrayal perpetrated on Indians. This is diametrically opposite to what Gandhiji stood for. I'll come back to this issue again here today. What did we say? We said whoever, you know, has faith in Nehruji's vision, who respects his ideals and acknowledges his contribution will be there. People from many political parties are called. With respect to the BJP, even before 3 months, 2 incidents happened, Nidhi. A very senior BJP leader said, all books of Nehruvian historians should be burnt. And I'm quoting him verbatim. Then there was an MP candidate called Gopalakrishnan of the BJP from Kerala. He writes in RSS mouthpiece Kesari that Gandhiji was a wrong target for Godse. Godse should have killed Nehru.
But Mr. Kesavan, you can still invite the Prime Minister.
RSS very surprisingly condemned the statement.
You can still rise above it all and invite the Prime Minister. The RSS He's the Prime Minister of India. He's your Prime Minister too.
Please, Nidhi, the RSS condemned the statement. The RSS condemned, saying it is his own view, we condemn it. Did the BJP condemn it? Did the BJP condemn such a word? You talk about a Prime Minister. Nehruji was the first Prime Minister of India. Did the BJP have the courage and conviction to condemn it? No. This exposes the duplicity and double standard, and these are the people who are trying to appropriate the, you know, values of Nehruji, for which they are the antithesis. And you know, let them answer this question for these two statements the BJP leaders made, and then talk about and hanker for an invitation.
Nalin Kohli, the criticism of the BJP then would be that it is a cynical use, that because it is convenient now for the Prime Minister to, you know, praise Nehru, to praise Mahatma Gandhi, he's doing it, and he's doing it selectively, and, you know, it's something that's good for his image, which, you know, he's very conscious of.
Let's go one by one. I'm glad that Mr. Kesavan started with the word appropriation. I think what's happening here is, we've had a good discussion in the beginning, Swapan, Professor Mukherjee, Sudhindraji, everyone have spoken. The fact is, Nehru doesn't belong to a political or to a private limited company, as Swapan was saying. He belongs to the nation, and they became Prime Ministers of India, whether it's Mr. Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, to serve the nation. Are we to believe by the Congress party's standards that they were there to serve a family? That is not exactly how it is. Second is, let's look at it next. Appropriation of legacy is for whom? Let me finish my point, please. Appropriation of legacy, for whom?